So you should see recording has begun. And I'm going to now boot up my slides. So I'm going to share my screen and okie dokie. Are you all seeing that okay? If you can see me, just sort of give me a thumbs up. Yes, we're seeing it. Great, great. Okay. So this course is effectively about communicating effectively your science and your research. And it's a course that I've been running since 2014, but not in an online format. So it's last year I did it in an online format for the first time, but I had a very small group of students. I had 2 students. So this time it's a much bigger class, and so it'd be interesting to see how it works in this format. But I also hope that you'll be very patient with me, with us as we go through the 8-week period. And also it's quite intensive. So we're going to cover a lot of ground in 8 weeks. Now, as you can see, there's quite a few logos appearing on this slide. So you've got Osaka University. We are the host of this course. And then you have APRU, which is the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. And then there's the Association of East Asian Research Universities. Both of those networks have actually established virtual student exchange programs. So the majority of students on this course are actually coming through those virtual student exchange programs. And what's interesting is it's because of COVID, we can't travel. So now we have to interact virtually. And so this is kind of making up for the study tours or the overseas studies that you might have done normally if it wasn't for COVID. So this is a great chance for you to actually interact with students from all over the Asia Pacific region, but also from other continents. We have quite a few African students. Now they're coming via the United Nations University, which is based in Tokyo. And I used to work at the United Nations University up until 2015. And so I have this connection with them. And usually I would actually go to the United Nations University and deliver this course. But this year, we're bringing the UNU students to join us virtually. And then, of course, we have a group of students from Osaka University as well, who are at all levels, undergraduate, master's, and doctorate. So it's a very diverse group, covering many, many different areas of scientific specialization, covering different levels of academic tiers and many, many different countries. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things go. Now, a few ground rules. So firstly, please put your university abbreviation after your name. That will really help us when we try to organize breakout sessions. Especially, we'll be trying to get people from different universities in different groups. Maybe we'll start off with something random, but later on we might play around with that. Keep your camera on during class, please. That's really good manners, and I hope everybody will do that. And when of course, you're all doing perfectly because you're all very experienced at Zoom, but you mute your microphone when you're not talking. And if you have a question, you can raise the question either physically, trying to attract my attention, or you can use the raise hand mode, or you can just speak out and say, excuse me, but I have a question. So please feel free to raise questions and at any point during the lectures. So we want you to come out of your comfort zone. It's something I say at the start of every course, is that we tend to try to stay within an area where we're very comfortable, especially around communication. So, you try to avoid like taking a risk. You try to play it safe. You try to do things the way you've always done it. And what we'd really like to encourage you to do is to push yourself. Even though technology is mediating some of this, but please try to reach out across the technology and engage with your fellow students, and try to do something different. Try to do something a little bit risky. Yeah, just try to enjoy it, and I think that's where you're going to learn. So if you're really worried, oh, what will everybody think about me if I do this or do that, then you're not really going to learn anything. So please don't stay within your comfort zone. Try your best to push yourself, take risks, and then have a good time. So this course is actually about communicating and enjoying communicating. Right, so I also have to mention that this course has been inspired by a lot of different people. So it's not just me communicating my ideas, but you know, Mitsuru has had input, and also previous students have really given a lot of feedback. But I've also been lucky to work with many really creative people. And actually for UNU, the UNU students don't know these people, but many of them were previously working with the UNU. So for instance, in the middle there with the UNU logo, that's one of the previous rectors, Hans van Ginkel. And then other colleagues that worked with me at the UNU, making documentary films or developing websites and so on. So while I had the chance to interact with them, I learned a lot about different aspects of communication. And I think that was a really valuable journey for me. And I think also I learned a lot of the insider tricks, and also got a better understanding of what makes really successful communication by interacting with these people. And what we want to do during this course is really share that knowledge with you. So it's not just, you know, it's not about how to make a nice PowerPoint. That's not the purpose of this course. It's not about how to write a lovely essay or a lovely journal article. It's really to try to get you to think about how can I communicate better? How can I be more effective in communicating? And then the question is, what is effective? Well, that really depends on you. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. And we're going to come back to that later. But it also depends on your audience. Who is your audience? And what do you want them to do as a result of your communication? And so you need to think about that all the time. And don't worry, it's not about taking this 8-week course and then suddenly you're a fantastic communicator and everything is working fine and everybody's clapping every time you make a presentation. That's not the goal. This is just the start point. This is just to get you to begin to think about, how can I get better and better at this? And then to go on that journey and to keep pushing yourself and to keep trying to find new sources of inspiration, new insights from other people. So it's really about breaking down what makes a good communicator, what's behind a successful communicator, what sort of things are they doing, and how can we look into that and understand it. So just by way of background, this is me. So I started out in the UK, and I'm actually an urban planner by training. So I was at Heriot-Watt University, then I was at Oxford Poly working there. Then I went to Kyoto University for a while. I've worked in consultancy, and then I've worked with the UN for a long time. I was at UNU from 1996 to 2015. And I originally started out as a researcher, and then I shifted over to developing media. And I ended up as head of communications at the UNU. So as head of communications, I was responsible for everything, for the website, for the social media, for press releases and so on. So I had a really hands-on experience of that. And all the current website and everything that you see on the UNU is still from the time that we worked on it. So then I went on to Australia for a few years. And then after that, in 2018, I joined RMIT. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go into breakout groups. And what do we want you to do in the breakout groups? Well, firstly, want you to do a short introduction. So who are you? What kind of things do you enjoy? And where are you going? Where are you going in your life, in your career? But also want you to talk about your research. So there is a style of talking about research, which is called LOL, my thesis. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a laugh out loud, my thesis. But what it's trying to do is try to make your research topic more accessible to other people. So for instance, you say, this is just an example from Cambridge University, how to guess how much water drips out when you squash something. So it's a very basic, simple way of saying it. His actual title or her actual title is Theoretical Aspects of Paste Formulation for Extrusion. So you can see that actually academics love to make their work sound much more complicated than it actually is. So what we'd like you to do is just basically go into these groups, and then we're going to have a little conversation for around 15 minutes. Okay, let me get out of my slides here. Whoops. Okay, any questions about that? No? You pretty okay, well, what we'll do is I've created 8 groups. You're going to be randomly assigned, and just go into the groups and have a chat, get to know your fellow course mates. And we, the TAs, will be popping in and out just to check you're okay. All right then, so have fun, say hello to each other, and I will see you back in 15 minutes. So one thing I want to check is, are you all able to access the learning management system? Yep. Have you been able to get into the learning management system okay? Some of you look like not so sure, but did you got email messages from me, yes? So
yes, I've got some email.
Yeah, so those emails are actually coming from via our learning management system. So you should have received at some point, you should have received the password and link to get access. If you don't have it, then you need to let me know, or let one of the teaching assistants know, because I'm going to share everything via the learning management system. So for instance, I'm going to put this recording on that, and I'm also going to put the slides there, and I'm going to put the readings there. So it's really useful for you to be able to access that. Also, the learning management system allows me to send emails directly to all of you, because you're all at different universities and different countries and so on. And so if I cannot manage all your emails separately, so I just use the learning management system to send you a message. So it looks a bit, I can share my screen with you. Share. I don't know if you can see that. It looks like this. And there are many tools. So I put on a discussion forum, so we can have some discussion. You can introduce yourselves and share more information. But I'm also going to put things like the assignments, and also I put in the course guide and some of the, the learning objectives and so on. So it's really, really important that you get access to this, because it will really help you to follow the course more effectively. So all of you should have received a course guide. You should have that already. If you haven't got it, then let me know, and I will send it to you. And then the other thing that we need for today is we're going to do this little assignment, and it's called the message box. I hope you have it, but just in case, in case somebody doesn't have it, I'm going to copy the file to chat now. You should just have seen that the worksheet 1 message box appeared. So when we go into the breakout session, I'm hoping that you have already filled this in, and that you will basically, in the breakout session, you'll be just describing, okay, this is my message box, and my research topic is this issue, and then this is the problem I'm dealing with, and this is the so what, and this are the solutions. I also shared with you a chapter from the book by Nancy Barron, which is really good. So if you can, please get this book from your library. It will change your life. Now, I mean, maybe that's exaggeration, but it will definitely help you as a researcher to really improve how you communicate your work. And so I shared one chapter from this book. What Nancy said, which I think is really, really interesting, is that the best researchers in the world spend 50% of their time doing their research and 50% of their time communicating it. So when you think about that, how much time do you spend communicating your work? I think as you become more engaged, if you want to become an academic, then you should spend a lot of your time actually trying to present your work at conferences. You should be talking to the media, and you should be finding ways to share your work. So for instance, you could have a YouTube channel, or you could have a blog, or you could have use social media, Twitter, and so on. Can I ask you, does anybody have a YouTube channel?
No, actually, these apps are blocked in mainland China.
Oh, really? Oh, but don't you have a Chinese version?
No.
Oh, I thought like in China there were many influencers, you know, the people who are using social media and then they become quite successful. How do they do that if this is blocked? I know YouTube could be blocked, but isn't there like a Chinese video surfing?
Yes, like a Bilibili, like TikTok, and also what? Oh, and the other is, I don't know the English name of the other one, but there are several things similar with YouTube, I think.
Okay, well, what about from anybody else? I mean, does anyone have a YouTube channel? No? Okay. I got one.
I have.
Oh, who's that? You have one. What do you use it for? Are you kind of frozen?
I'm sorry, my internet connection, I think it's bad here.
Yeah. But you have a YouTube channel, yes? Okay. Yeah, I can't really hear you very well, but I have one. I have a YouTube channel, and I just started it actually, but I wished I had done this like 5 or 6 years ago. I wish I started a really long time ago, because it's very useful communication tool, and I really recommend that all of you think about doing something like that. Maybe it's either talk about your work, or talk about the books that are most interesting for you, talk about what's behind your research, how you're doing it, and so on. You'd be surprised how many people are really interested in that. And actually, it seems to be that YouTuber has become a new career for many people. So you know, just, you don't have to do it today, but try to think about how you could use different channels and different ways of communicating your work. So social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. There's lots of things you can do that will actually help you to have a bigger impact. And the beauty about the web, using the web, is that after you create something, then it starts to have its own life. So it means that whatever it is, that video, while you're sleeping, the video is traveling the internet and people are finding it. So it's a great way to really share your work. And so I'd encourage you to think about that. Okay, now I want to talk about the course, what you can expect on this course. So let me go to my slides again. So I'm sure you've all read the course guide, but I just want to summarize it so that it's really, really clear. And if you have any questions, please feel free to do so. So what are we trying to do? What's the focus? We're really thinking about successful communication. How do we understand successful communication? And I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Successful communication is when your message interacts with the audience. So you've got this kind of two-way interactive process going on there. And then how do you get that interaction to happen? Well, that's what we're going to explore during this course. Well, we have some potential tools that you can use and you can learn about. And I don't know how familiar you are with these, but we're going to talk about framing. We're going to talk about using metaphors, the importance of storytelling. Storytelling has been with human beings from the very beginning, but it can be a very, very effective way of communicating your research. We're going to talk about the idea of resonating with your audience. We're going to use this book called Resonate. It's actually online. You don't have to buy it. You'll be able to access it. It's very, very good. There's a lot of secrets in this book. And we're going to talk about how you use visual media more effectively. So for instance, using video, using photographs to communicate your message, and then also a little bit of design. So it does help for you to think about designing your message or designing your slides and so on. One really, really big challenge is this idea of representation. So actually everything around us, unless we experience it firsthand, is a representation. So photographs are representations, TV programs are representations. They're just somebody interpreting the world for you. Likewise, your research is a representation, and the images you use to support it are representations. So somebody's trying to come in. Oh, stop sharing. Yes, so you have to really understand the importance of this notion of representation and how you present your ideas, how you communicate your ideas connects up to the way you see the world, or the values you have, or the beliefs that you have. So you have to think about that. Like, you know, I'm a guy from Britain. I have some specific idea about how the world works. And when I communicate, that I tend to present my ideas. You are very different. You have a different worldview. So you're a different audience. And I have to try to connect to your worldview for this to make any sense to you at all. Likewise, when you are communicating your ideas, say if you're from Indonesia, you have the Indonesian worldview, and you need to think about, okay, I see the world like this. How does a Japanese person see it? Or how does a Chinese person see it? How do I connect to them? So you have to think about your target all the time. But this also works within academic field. You know, if you're talking to a scientist, a chemist or physicist versus you're talking to an English literature student, you need to use a very different approach to be able to connect to them. So what does the university world expect from you? I think it's very straightforward. They want you to ask a question. That's what your research is about. and then they want you to go out and find the answer. And the goal, the end game often is to get your work published in a peer-reviewed journal. So it's not easy, it's quite time-consuming. And what usually happens is after you're published, lots of people will quote your work, and the more people who say, who cite your work, the more famous you become as an academic. So only a few academics do this very, very well. And they become professors or they become very famous academics. So Nancy says in this book, what she's arguing is that many scientists are saying that approach, that traditional approach of the university, of getting you to, answer a question and then publish your work in a journal, it is limited. It's very limited. And so the question is that many scientists are now trying to go beyond it. The question is, how do you go beyond it? And that's what we're going to discuss in this course. Yes, you will always write a good master's thesis, a good doctor thesis. You'll always write excellent journal articles, but that should be the start point, not the end point. Once you've done all the work, you really need to communicate it. That's the real critical point I want to emphasize. So you have to escape from the ivory tower. So ivory tower is a description that's generally used for universities. And it's the idea that you're disconnected from the real world. And I think that that's got to change, that academics need to engage more and more in the real world. And when you do that, communication is really, really important. So what does Nancy say we need to do? She gives us 3 key points. Firstly, think carefully, know exactly what you want to say. Yeah. Then, related to that, understand your audience. So whenever you're going to give a talk, you need to ask in advance, who am I talking to? If they ask the organizers, what is the background of the people I'm speaking to? So I'm talking to you now. To be honest, I don't know all of your backgrounds. So it's a little bit challenging for me. But over the next 8 weeks, I'm hoping as I get to know you better, our communication will improve. And then the third point is try to use easy, accessible language. Try to avoid too much technical jargon and try to use common language. I think for many of you, English is not your native language. So it's quite challenging for you to talk in another language. But when you are talking in your native language as well, you have to think about how you can use just accessible, non-technical language so that people who are not scientists can understand what you're trying to say. So one thing that happened to me back in 2005, I think in 2005, I was really just a regular academic doing the normal work. And then in 2005, I did a big jump. And that was that I started to move into making documentary films. And once I started to move into documentary films, my perspective changed. I started to think, oh, how can I reach millions of people? Yeah. And so I think changing direction is really important sometimes, and just thinking about using different media. So now, when I think about communicating, it looks like this. So I think about the science, but I also want to connect it into art. Filmmaking is an art, photography is an art. So I've got filmmaking in there. I have the web. I want to use YouTube. I want to use various ways to connect to people and use social media. Writing is still very important. I do a lot of writing, but I like to include a graphic design component. And then I also spend a lot of time thinking about photographs. So I think, for instance, in this course, you should spend a lot of time choosing good photographs when you're making a presentation and trying to use them very effectively to communicate what you want to say. And then social media is in there as well. I'm less comfortable with social media. To be honest, I don't have a Facebook account anymore. So I wouldn't say, oh, please just use Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and so on. I wouldn't push too strongly on that. It's really up to you how you feel about it. Okay, so this is the course structure. We're here on the 15th of April, and we're going to, as I said, go into a breakout session after this. Next week, on the 22nd, we're going to play a game, which is called the Thing from the Future. So you're going to design a product that comes from the future. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about representation and framing. The week after, we're going to talk about resonate, what it means, how you do it. And then, sorry, what happened there? We're going to prepare for a Pechakucha. So on the 13th of May, you're going to make you have a Pechakucha presentation to deliver. I'm going to talk about what that is. Next, we'll play another game on the 20th, which is more than research, which is kind of preparing for the final assignment to get you thinking about research in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm going to talk about a little bit on art and science. And then finally, the final few sessions are actually related to the final assignment, which is to somebody's got their microphone, to work in a group to develop a communication strategy around a sustainable development goal. So we're sort of building up to that. And there's going to be a couple of guest speakers. I'm bringing in a journalist to talk to you about the perspective of what journalists are looking for from researchers. And I'm also going to bring a filmmaker in to talk to you about how you develop a media campaign. So hopefully you'll see there's a balance between your individual skills in making a Pechakucha, and then there's a balance of the collaborating with others, trying to figure out how to communicate strategically. So next slide. The assignments, how does the assignments work? So firstly, you get 14% of your mark for attending each week. It's 1% per week. And then there are these worksheets that you need to submit as well, which is 2% for each worksheet. 36% of the mark goes for the Pechakucha presentation. And then the remaining 50% is the group work, which is developing this communication strategy. So that's how it breaks down. Pechakucha, many of you are hearing this for the first time and wondering, what is this? Well, it's a very interesting type of presentation. It's a presentation where you have 20 slides and you can spend 20 seconds on each slide. So the total length of the presentation is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to record that. So you're going to narrate your slide presentation and you're going to submit it via Dropbox or Google Share, File Share, whatever. And then the best ones will be selected and you will present it live in one of the sessions there. It's really good fun. I really like the Pechakucha format because it focuses you in a very short time period. So what they say in the design world is that great work occurs under 1,000 constraints and limitations. So you have this constraint of time, 20 seconds and 20 slides, and everybody has to follow the same pattern. So you have to do exactly that. You can't do 30 slides, or you can't spend 25 seconds per slide. You have to do exactly the same thing. So it's a real test of your creativity. And in the design world, they believe that better solutions come from having more constraints there. So you have to find a way to work around those constraints and come up with something that's really, really cool. So, any questions so far? Are we all clear? Does anybody want to ask anything?
Professor?
Yes.
Is the presentation slides going to be shared on the platform?
Yes, we should do. I will do that. So basically, firstly, I want you to share them with me directly, and then we will collate all of the presentations, and we will make them available through the learning management system. But as I said, the best ones will be presenting live. So it's a bit nerve-wracking to do it live, but it's also kind of fun.
Sorry, I was asking for the presentation that you were showing in the class.
Yes, my presentations, these slides are all going onto the learning management system after class. I like to share them after class because I think that that's when, if I share them before class, I think a lot of people, maybe they don't listen. And I really think it's important that you listen. But then if you miss some class, if you miss a class, or for whatever reason, or you want to revise and see this information, yeah, the slides are all going to be available, as are all the reading materials as well. So sorry, I thought you were talking about the Pechakucha slides.
No, sorry, thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else got a question?
Professor?
Yes.
Yes, my question is about the Pechakucha.
Yeah.
And I would like to know, is it going to be like, do you tell your, like for this specific Pechakucha, do we have a specific focus, or is it going to be just creative storytelling?
It's creative storytelling. Yeah.
Great.
And I'm going to point, there is a Pechakucha website, and so I will point you to that. And you can see, so this is actually quite a global movement, and there are many venues where people actually go, well, before COVID, where people would go and they would make these Pechakucha presentations live. So you can actually see what's an example of a very, very good Pechakucha, and then you can use that when you come up with your ideas. So yeah, we're really looking for you to play around and be as creative and as engaging as you can. There are some rules, sorry, not rules. There are some formulas around what makes a good Pechakucha in terms of the overall flow of the story, in terms of the use of visuals, and you can learn those just by looking at some of the existing online Pechakucha talks. So yeah, it's fun. I think you can enjoy this part of the course. Anyone else got some questions?
Professor?
Yeah.
I want to ask that whether we need to record a video by ourselves and hand it together with a PowerPoint.
So this is another little challenge because it requires some technical skill, but you guys are the computer generation, born and brought up with computers. What I'm really wanting you to do is to create your slideshow and narrate it. You know how to use like the narrated slideshow function on PowerPoint or Keynote. You do that. And then so you basically set it out so that it's going to be 20 seconds per slide, 20 slides, and then you narrate it and you record it. And I think the PowerPoint allows you to save that file as a video. And when you save it as a video, you share that file with me. It's not difficult. I did another course last year where we used the Pechakucha style, and all the students were able to master the technique. But you might have to Google it, or you might have to watch a YouTube video how to make a narrated slideshow. but it's not that difficult. Takes some time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else got a question?
Excuse me, Professor.
Yeah.
I have two questions, and the first one is about the technical things. It's like, where are we going to submit our worksheets?
So the worksheets, you email them to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just send them via email. Does everybody have my email address? I'm going to.
Can I just like do it via CLE?
Sorry, say that again. Oh,
I think
you would like me to,
well CLE.
I can make a
I mean,
turn it in on CLE if you like.
there's a mail function in CLE, and I can just
You can,
email.
yeah, exactly. But if you don't have if you're not using CLE yet, then you can just email it to me as well. And there's my email address for everybody.
Yeah.
So either CLE or directly to me. And for your Pechakucha talk, you have to use something like a Google Drive or Dropbox or some way of transferring a relatively large file. Yeah. And then I will be able to download them all and share them with the TAs, and we will choose the best ones. And then the best ones will present to everybody. We'll try and we'll give you feedback at that time as well, because I think feedback is really important. Did you have another question?
Yeah, the second one is about maybe about the course or what you have talked just then. It's about, I know that first thing is like to really know what I'm going to share with people, but the thing is like as a really new research or researcher in certain fields, it's like kind of harder for me to really know what I'm gonna share or convey to the public. So do you know how to like decide what kind of level or what kind of content we can like choose to share with the public? Thank you.
So yeah, you're still at the very early stage then in terms of developing your research ideas, and I think in that context, don't worry so much about the how do you say it? It's clear field or whatever. Basically, choose some topic that you're interested in and that you're inspired by, and you can share that with us for the purposes of this course. Because I think that the lessons you learn from just trying to communicate that one will be very valuable to you later when you get more in-depth into your research. But there are other students on this course who are already doing their doctor. Maybe it'd be interesting to see what they do as well. So try to learn from other students how they are presenting their ideas at different stages in their experience of doing research. So the Pechakucha doesn't have to be about your research, but for instance, the strategy that you're going to develop should be tied into the sustainable development goals, and it can be negotiated by your team. And then you really need to talk about, okay, what is our focus? Who is our target? What are we trying to communicate? And that's, I think, also a really important process. So yeah, don't worry too much about research topic, because everybody's different, yeah, and also everybody's from different backgrounds, and everybody has different scientific field. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that at all.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else got a question?
Professor?
Yep.
I'm sorry if you already answered this question, but when are we gonna start creating Pechakucha presentation?
Yeah, so we're going to start preparing it. Let me get to my slide. Yeah, so probably, I want you to start thinking about it now as a topic.
Okay.
But we're gonna start working on the details of it on the third session.
Third session.
Yeah,
Okay.
so a week before it's due. But if you start to think about that topic, and if you start to look at the Pechakucha website, then you can start imagining, okay, maybe I will talk about this. These are some of my ideas that I want to cover, and then yeah, you'll have had the basic outline ready by the 6th of May. You'll already have an outline in your head.
You can create your own story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. What I will do is, in order to help you, I will make sure that the assignment information is online as soon as I'll put it on like next week, so you can look at what's required and you can start planning it from next week. Yeah, because this course is quite intensive. So yeah, it's good to be well organized and to think in advance about what you're trying to do. But that's great. That's a great question. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else got any questions?
Professor, so the group presentation about the sustainable development goal, it's also going to be on the same format as the Pechakucha?
No, that's actually something we need to, I mean, my idea was that each group should talk for about 15 minutes, but it really depends on how many groups we have. But the idea would be you'd organize yourself as a team and you divide the roles up between the team members. And this has worked really well in the past for other presentations that have been made. So yeah, teams organize themselves differently. Sometimes they say, if there's 14 members, they have it sequential. One goes first, second, third, fourth, or they switch around. So it's really up to you guys. But at the moment, I'm not completely sure how many students we will have. So far, we have about 37 or so, but there may be a few missing. And of course, we want to make sure you all have a reasonable amount of time to make those presentations. So we'll make the final decision maybe after your Pechakucha, but for now, think about something in the region of 15 minutes for your group.
Thank you.
I'd love to also share some of the past presentations that have been made. They've been really, really interesting. There are quite some really good ones from you in the past. So I'll see if I can find a way to share the videos with you to give you some inspiration as well. Okay, anybody else got a question? Okay, so we've been going for just over an hour and 10 minutes. Would you like a break? Okay, so let's take a 15-minute break.